Hello and welcome to the dungeon. My name's Dan and in today's video we've been playing a lot of Devil May Cry 5. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Devil May Cry game, let me explain it to you. It's set in the real world, kinda, where you play a devil hunter. In this case, you play 3 devil hunters. A devil hunter is a supernaturally powered being who can kick ass. A lot, often the heavy metal tracks. Now, I was a big fan of the original Devil May Cry, way back in the PS2 era, which really set the spectacle fighter genre from going. Think Bayonetta, think maybe God of War to some extent, the original PS2 ones, and of course Metal Gear Revengeance, the best name ever. So, it's a lot of hacking and slashing, but looking spectacular as you do so. So it's a very stylish game, very kind of coolness about it. It's not so much that you have to destroy an enemy, but you have to do so whilst doing double flips and throwing a chain at his friend's face. In some ways, a spectacle fighter shares a lot of similarity with a beat-em-up, particularly when it comes to things like combos and juggling enemies in the air. These games even reward you for more combos, so chaining your attacks together is definitely encouraged. So in the original Devil May Cry, you play a white-haired goon called Dante, and for the astute of you who might be wondering, is that kind of where he got his channel name from? You would be correct. Anyway, Dante goes to a spooky island because he's a paranormal investigator, because he is, and there's some spooky stuff happen, and he has lots of enemies to kill, and it's quite epic. Anyway, I won't go through the plot lines of all the previous games, because if you want to do that, you can do so in Devil May Cry 5. It's a feature. Suffice to say, he is the hero in most of the other games. There's a lot of backstory, and I quite like him as a character. He is one of the 3 you get to play in Devil May Cry 5. Not until about halfway though, so that is a bit of annoyance. The other 2 characters though are still good in their own way, one of which is Nero, who you can see before you, and then a mysterious stranger called V. So, what makes the One-Armed Bandit, Kylo Ren and Geralt of the Pizzeria different is they have a range of different attacks they can use amongst them. For Nero, who you start off with, and I would say probably most of the game is based off him, you have this fake arm which you can use to do various abilities such as explode, create lightning, all kinds of time weirdy wobbly stuff. It's all very interesting and you can have a lot of fun experimenting with that. For V, his shtick is summoning a bird and a tiger and occasionally a big giant blob of a creature to do the dirty work for him. He's actually quite an easy character to play. You just have to really summon what you need, point it in the right direction, and have at it. Dante is all about the weapons, so he has various swords, guns, motorbikes, cowboy hats, more guns. It is a real feast of ability that you're given, so the game wants you to have fun and to try various different things to see what works for you or not. If anything, the choices given to you can be a little overwhelming. There were times when I would purchase an ability, and I'm not too keen on purchasing abilities, but that's how this game works. And I would forget to use it, and I would just stick to what I know, which generally involved shooting something in the air, jumping, throwing a chain at it, and all kinds of other stuff like that. Combat is also very satisfying as you're surrounded by generally hordes of enemies at once. You have to find a way to thin the herd and prevail. There is a wide range of enemies to be facing as well, from various spinning lizards to giant bugs to wraithy ladies with giant scissors to medieval knights in armor. If you're familiar with the first Devil May Cry game like I am, then there are a lot of callbacks to that one, which I do appreciate. A lot of fan service has gone into this title. Now, with the combat, one gripe I do have is aerial enemies. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky to actually land your hits with them, obviously you have to jump or bring them down to your level, and so with the angles of the game, sometimes I was just flailing madly into the air because I thought they were right there, but they weren't. But it is only a small minor gripe, and there are ways around it. But fire bats, fuck those fire bats, they are annoying pieces of poo. So, let me be clear. The core element of this game is fighting enemies. It's kinda linear. Some areas do branch out a little, and there are places you can discover, a lot of secrets to find. Some of which involves you doing a certain type of thing, such as summoning a giant blob to break a wall or that kind of thing. But for the most, it's quite linear. You go into one area, you do some fighting, clear the enemies. By the way, mostly you can't actually leave an area until you clear it out, then progress to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, until a boss turns up, and then the area is gone. While this works, I do prefer the original way of doing things, which was more a giant area, not so much an open world, just a lot of places to go, and you would often backtrack and go to different places that you had seen before, but couldn't actually reach at the time. Then again, you all know my opinions on Resident Evil and those games, and the first Devil May Cry was of that mould. In fact, there's a lot of shared history between these two series, as they were both from Capcom. Anyway, that's the gameplay pretty much down. If you're expecting other things such as vehicles, I know there's a cool van which one of the non-playable characters gets to drive around in, but you don't get to drive it. I'm not saying this game needs that kind of stuff, definitely not. It does what it does very well, but it only does that, if you know what I'm saying. This is a game where if you don't like hacking and slashing enemies and looking cool whilst doing so, if you don't like that, you won't like this. I like it a lot. Right, now on to the presentation. For this, it's really 50-50 for me, which I will explain right now. You see, from a lot of what you can see on the screen, it takes place in what you might be forgiven for thinking is London. There's a lot of Britannia-esque things green, such as the buses, the phone booths, the various things we have here in good old Blighty. It's not London though, it's a fictional place called Redgrave. But I think Redgrave might actually be a real place. Doesn't look like that though. I hope. I hope Redgrave doesn't look like that. Anyway, I like the whole London-ish aesthetic. I think it's kind of quirky. I think it is definitely drawing the eye to you. At one place you are going over, I can't believe it's not the London Bridge, and it definitely gives the title its own unique charm. They could have very easily not set it in this London-ish place, and I think it would have been a worse game because of it. Having said that though, I said presentation is 50-50 for me, and that's because half the time you're in I can't believe it's not London, the other half you're climbing up through a giant tree. And I like trees, they're very useful, but half a game in one when you're going up and there's only small changes to the colour palettes, I don't know about that. Some of the backdrops are also very bland as well. You can tell they definitely put most of their graphics budget on what is in front of you and what you're killing, as opposed to all the buildings and rivers that you can see at the back. Oh, and as well as the whole London thing, occasionally you get to see some old decrepit castles, and there's a bit of Inception type stuff going on there too, which is visually nice to look at. Now, another thing that this game does to make itself known is the soundtrack. This definitely isn't bland. For example, every character you play of the three have their own distinct track when the battle begins, whether it's J-rock or whatever kind of metal that is, or whatever. And for a lot of the boss battles, particularly the last couple, it goes in full orchestra mode. So think your Lord of the Rings, your Hans Zimmer, all that good stuff. And if you want to listen to the tracks while you're not playing, just go on straight to the jukebox function and listen to your heart's content. Like Resident Evil 2 before it, this gives you a lot of extras in terms of things like art and various notes, which gives you more lore to the game. And my personal favourite, being able to watch any CGI movie you want to as you unlock it. Okay, so let's talk plot now. As mentioned, the three main characters are all important in their own way to the overall storyline. There are a few others, but these are mainly allies of the main three. These are generally the ladies, which include Trish, the blonde badass fighter, Lady, the lady with the rocket launcher, and Nico, the Southern Belle who drives a van very badly in the UK. To be honest with you, they don't really add much in terms of a story, apart from having to be rescued at certain points, and Nico is great for customizing your gear and learning new skills. But from a plotline point of view, they could very easily not be in here. Now, this game does have a main villain. In fact, you see him right from the start. And I guess he also has some underlings too, but it's a bit weird. And to be honest with you, I think it could have done with more plot-centric characters. I've never really felt this before when looking at a piece of fiction like this, but I would say the plot is kind of claustrophobic. It needed more people, basically, and I think it does suffer because of that. Speaking of characters, did you know this game has a co-op? And I find that really weird because it's not something you can actually control. Basically, as you're playing a mission with a certain character in certain missions, at the same time, someone else, completely on the same network as you or whatever, can also be playing the same mission as a different character. And you might rarely encounter each other. In fact, you'd only really know you're playing with someone at the end when they can rank your performance, and vice versa. If you get ranked stylish, you get a glittery gold orb, which is useful for continues. But you also get them for logging every day, so I don't know how valuable they are. But if you're expecting to play with your friend, or friends for a whole free-play game, then good luck with that, as it seems completely random, and you don't really seem to have any control over it. That is very much a missed opportunity, Capcom. Like, the game is crying out for it, and you kinda tease it, but not really. So, yeah, sort that out. So, like Crackdown 3 before it, there are a lot of orbs in this game to collect. They come in 3 or 4 distinct colours, sometimes more depending on the character you play, and they do different things such as improve your health, give you more energy for your devil trigger, a gold one for an additional continue, but the most common are the red orbs. These red orbs you can purchase with real world money. You know, many people have said this better than me, but why do you need this kind of thing in a 90% single player game? Obviously the answer is because it makes money. Yeah, but it's stupid. You can grind for red orbs, of course. There is a mode where you can keep playing and playing on a flat surface, fighting enemies for as long as you want. And you can replay the levels as much as you want to as well, and that's kind of fun if you want to try and beat your score. So you're never really in any danger of running out of red orbs. But even so, it just seems unnecessary. How about this? If you pay something like 3 million red orbs, you get a feature for each character, bearing in mind there's 3, so you'll need 9 million in total. An ability which makes getting stylish rank one rung easier. There are various different rungs of stylish you go from D to dismal, C to crazy, so on and so forth, with triple S being the best one. 3 million red orbs makes that process easier. Pointless! How about playing the game because it's fun? Which it is. It is, don't get me wrong, it's a fun game. I have a few other gripes as well, such as the loading screens can be a little too lengthy. Oh, I should mention as well that I played this on the Xbox One edition, so with a PC which is better than Xbox One, which I'm sure is most of them, you may not have this issue so much. Also, this is a game of recycling. Literally, the first boss you fight, you'll be fighting him twice more in the game. Other ones do get recycled as well in terms of a boss gauntlet type dealy. So expect them to keep coming back like a boomerang. Also, The game starts off with two difficulty modes, Human and Devil I think, or whatever it's called. I started on the more difficult one, which I found a little too easy. I'm not saying I'm a good player, I got plenty of Dismals in my run, but I wasn't that challenged. I did go through a few of the gold orbs, particularly with some of the enemies, but I never really felt I was in the danger of running out. And that was the harder of the two options. I think the medium one would have been a lot more cakewalky. Now the good news is, this is a game where you can keep on playing and playing at higher difficulties, which do get unlocked when you finish it. So if you want a better challenge, then try on the next level. In fact, I think a lot of the value from a game like this comes from trying to get a high score on a level and then daring your friends to try and beat it. So although it doesn't really have good co-op, as mentioned before, it probably is good to have it in the household if you have a bunch of people who are very competitive and care about getting the high scores. So just to recap, if you are somewhat interested in what I've described, you will have a blast with this game. It is dripping in style. At one point, Dante does the moonwalk thing with a cowboy hat on his head. Yes, I have a few gripes here and there, but on the whole, I very much enjoyed my time with Devil May Cry 5. It's definitely a love letter to the fan base, one I think that most fans would also enjoy as well. They brought back original Dante, so 2 thumbs up from me on that. It expands the lore, it has a lot of satisfying combat, some dodgy accents, but hey, but a lot of fun and enjoyment to be had. You get to turn into a demon and fight enemies, and then later on you get to turn into a better demon and fight your enemies. Come on, so here we go with my final score. Devil May Cry 5 gets 4 rolling eyeballs out of 5. Capcom are on a winner this year when it comes to remaking their old games and doing more sequels, but nevertheless they're making some good stuff. So if you want a good time, then play Devil May Cry 5. Right, that's it for me. My next video will be on a smaller title called Outward, and if you've not heard of Outward before, that's probably for the best. Anyway, thanks for watching, I shall see you next time. Goodbye.